Salutations. Let's discuss UFOs, shipcraft, and temporal displacement. If we were going to go into Doctor Who references, we call it trans-dimensional engineering. But I think that's very much reality in this phenomenon. About a couple weeks ago, I got a call from a gentleman named Jason Quitt. A lot of people might know who that is. I met him at his SETI. We were presented together on the panel, and he wanted to talk what he considered higher dimensional beings creating their own hyperdimensional or their own dimensional space in which astral contact occurs. Okay, and I do agree with that definitely to a certain degree, especially when we transfer this over into type 2 and type 3 civilizations that are using actually micro wormholes and black holes and the quantum hologram for a power source itself for their civilization. So we start dealing with that. We have to deal with some of these higher dimensional beings making actually their own space, especially inside the craft. Excuse me. The reason why this is very prevalent for me is on a craft like this, all right? I've shown you many times. It's a good one and a good illustration. This ship to me, I would say approximately, it seems somewhere maybe like 150 feet in diameter, less than 200, but more than 100. I'd say 150 feet in diameter when it's floating around in the sky. Now, when I'm levitated into this craft, into the door you see there, all right, below, I've talked about this. This is on another video, the anti-gravity engine room. So look that up. I'm not going to spend a lot of time going over that. But that room itself was this. And this room is much larger than the representation, than the illustration gives it, all right? This room was big. It seemed like it was probably more like a cargo bay in size and about 200 feet in diameter, large in there. It was very big. So that, and something else I want to point out. This, you see the cube right there? I mentioned this before. This cube, when I got close to it, first it's a lot bigger than it appears to be. It made me feel dizzy, and it was sitting at an angle that was like, I don't know, like a 90-degree angle on the ceiling. And when I look up at it, it starts making me feel dizzy. The thing I call temporal aphasia, which lets me know this was a physical experience because you're about to throw up. That doesn't happen in the dream body, all right? That's a difference between physical and astral experiences. Anyway, that's that first room on there, okay? So this room alone was the size of what this craft appeared to be on the outside. Now, another room in there, it's not the immediate next room I went to, but this is another room in there that's also, it's very large. It's got these large eggs in there. I've shown you this before, but this is another floor on this craft that is bigger than what it should be. And this is outside of what I've already told you before, that a lot of these rooms seem to be in perpetual motion. So when you almost are wanting to go see another room or you're curious, the room will materialize around you or like you're sucked into it. So that's something else. And this takes actually, I think, interspatial geometry to a whole nother level, well beyond me, but other scientists that can talk about this and can probably put equations for this. I want to know, when can I see a scientist, or they'll talk about something, how this actually works as far as interspatial geometry. So anyway, that's another one. Speaking of this here, I just want to show an engine. This engine I've showed you many times, but this is a different craft than that one. This is not on this craft, but this craft, I'm being told when I'm on board that this engine is temporally displaced. And it appears to be very large, and it made me feel dizzy. This temporal aphasia that I've spoken of, that comes with both of these things, all right? So I think this is just something to take into account. Now, I've told you before that these crafts are built over or grown, actually grown with the different ingredients I've said. There's a DNA from the crew, certain molecules that are coming from planets that are devoid of Van Allen belts. So you've got alloys that are dealing with resistance to cosmic radiation, and you've got a type of a fungus, like I talked about Trichoderma ricci in a couple of videos ago. Things like that are used that are grown. These craft are grown over a micro wormhole, over a black hole. So the engine itself is displaced because it is grown within that vortex, within that singularity. This is important, and this is how some of this is working. So we're dealing with these ships that are jumping into the quantum hologram and using the quantum hologram that stores that information in front of a Mako, in front of a black hole. This is serious. Some of these civilizations may be only existing in that way now, especially when it comes down to how this contact phenomenon is interacting with our brain through the divine field. Are you following me a little bit? I feel like I'm going kind of deep on this, but this is very real. When dealing with interspatial geometry and trans-dimensional engineering like Doctor Who, that seems like a joke to a lot of people, but it's not. And I guarantee you I'm not the only contactee that's been on board a craft that was small on the outside. On the inside, it's huge. And why are these rooms moving around us? There's an organic nature. They're grown over these singularities, so the engines are temporally displaced. Do you feel me? And it's not just me talking. This is stuff that they transmitted to me during these experiences, because I'm curious and I ask. And some of these beings, when I was in their presence, they were answering my questions telepathically before I could formulate them. That is a bit disturbing, but it's the way it is. So that goes into the video talking about what it's like to be around non-humans. All right, so anyway, make sure I touched on everything here. Temporal aphasia, we got that. Perpetual motion. That's going to be it, folks. All right, so this is just something to kind of put on there that Jason Quick kind of got me to talking about. He said he was going to Contact in the Desert, which is a few days ago, and talked about this. So I actually let him use a couple of these photographs so he could kind of represent that. But I think this is serious, and the temporal aphasia that stops us from remembering actually being on board some of these craft physically. So it's just something I wanted to touch on a little bit, and how some of the inside of these craft are temporally displaced, causing temporal aphasia. The inside and outside of the craft are not in the same dimension. So this really says a lot to what it means to be on board a multidimensional ship. Please subscribe on Patreon. All right, I want to build my Patreon audience a little bit so I can do more YouTube videos. But right now I need more people on Patreon. There's a lot of videos on there. There's almost 40 videos on there actually, and not many of them have I released to YouTube. So check me out there, please. A lot of information there. I also like communicating with people more there. Hoping to see a few people at the SETI soon. I'll probably release this video before I go there. So anyway, much power and much energy. Peace.